Welcome to She Trusts Herself, the podcast for women who are learning to trust themselves, honor their inner voice, and choose themselves without guilt. I'm your host, Tash Leem, author, guest speaker, and certified human design reader. Together, we'll explore overcoming self-doubt, building deep self-trust, personal growth, and stepping into the next version of yourself with confidence. Welcome back to another episode. Today, I want to talk about learning the difference between reacting and responding. It's the difference between being able to be our best version, higher self, versus maybe the more petty one, or the version of you that you know exists but you don't necessarily like to unleash. We all like to think that when it counts, we would choose our higher self. The one who's calm, handles everything with grace and ease, doesn't take the bait when someone's trying to wind them up or press their buttons, doesn't send off that erratic text or email, and doesn't say something that you can't take back. Then you're actually in the situation and you can feel your blood boiling, you feel your stress levels rising, and it feels like you can't actually make a rational decision or response because you're in fight or flight mode and your nervous system has taken over and is wanting to dictate how you react in that situation rather than respond. So the intent of this episode is to give you some tips and strategies to help you identify when you may be in reactive mode and how to shift out of that so you can choose to respond more often than not. So what's the main difference between reacting and responding? To me, when I think of reacting to something, it's impulsive. It's something that you say without even thinking. It's like your mouth lets rip before your brain's even had a chance to process it and go, is this something that I actually want to say? You've just said exactly what's on your mind, and afterwards you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could put my words back in my mouth. Or alternatively, you're like, no, they needed to hear that right now. There are times when we react, but it's actually was needed in the moment. So I don't want you to feel like if you do react to something that that's not allowed, because we are humans and we're allowed to have that human experience and be sincere and not necessarily always choose our responses per se. This is more about the difference between when we're really fired up and we lash out at someone or we match their energy when we would rather not. When we get to responding, then it means that there's a pause and you're in control of what happens next. You may feel very emotional and stressed out, like your heart's beating out of your chest, but the thing is, you're not going to let the irrational part of yourself take over in that moment. You're going to choose your words and how you respond to that person. Sometimes that will annoy people because if they are trying to bait you or pull you down to their level, then it's probably going to irritate them that you didn't take the bait and that you're not clapping back at them in the way that they expected. Being the bigger person or responding in accordance with your higher self can actually annoy people when they're just expecting a fight and you're giving nothing back. How can we notice the difference between when we're in reactive mode versus responsive? A good indicator of you are in reactive mode is that you're matching the energy of the person that you're around. If you feel like you're defensive or protective of yourself, an idea, or someone that you love, then you may find yourself clapping back with the same energy that you were met with by that person. Maybe they're saying things and they're intentionally doing it because they want to get a rise out of you. And it could just be some low blows. Maybe it's something that you told them in confidence, or they're just hitting a vulnerability or a sensitive topic and you just go, okay, you've crossed a line. And then that's where you just jump on in and hit them below the belt as well. Afterwards, you may go, I really wish I didn't handle that situation like that. I've definitely been in those situations where I have clapped back and met that energy. And afterwards, I go through my circular process of I feel mad, then I feel bad, and then I feel sad. When I feel those emotions afterwards, I know that I reacted to a situation and didn't respond in a way that I truly wanted to. I got caught up in the heat of the moment and it wasn't how I would have liked to have handled that situation. When you're in that mode where it feels like you're feeling very protective or defensive, try and take a deep breath if you can, because that's where we start to get into flight or flight mode and we start to not think rationally. We just start thinking, okay, they are going for me. How can I protect myself in this moment? How can I defend myself? And that's where you start thinking about reacting reacting rather than responding. Try and check in with yourself, take that deep breath, notice how you're feeling. If you're feeling really riled up, maybe really tense in your body, or your heart's beating out of your chest and you just can't wait to say something explosive to make them stop, then I want you to try and see if you can, in that moment, picture two versions of yourself. The version that claps back and says exactly what's on your mind right now in this moment, and then the one that takes a moment to sit with it and then respond. I want you to see which one you would feel more comfortable with. I'll give you a personal example where I think about reacting and I go, okay, this is what I would say in this moment if I am in reactive mode. Usually it's something very petty and not something that I would be proud of saying. It would just be because I'm caught up in that moment. Then I go, okay, how would I respond in this moment? It's usually a lot more calmer and collected. And I go, okay, yes, being very petty and malicious would give me 2 seconds of satisfaction, but then I would be left with the guilt and knowing that I said something that I wouldn't have been proud of. And I would go through that mad, bad, sad cycle of emotions. Sometimes that takes a couple of days or a couple of weeks to move through versus responding. And that's where I can hold my head a little bit higher because I can sit with myself and go, okay, I had an option to react. I knew exactly what that version of me would have said, but I chose to honor myself and honor the person that I'd like to think I am. That feels a lot more comfortable for me. 9 times out of 10, I will choose that. This isn't about perfection. There are still times where I absolutely lash out and my mouth comes out with something before I've had a chance to process it. But this is just about catching yourself and trying to make the conscious choice between reacting and responding. Sign number 2 that you're reacting, maybe you go quiet. Maybe you are not someone that likes to fight back. So instead you retreat into your shell. And that's how you protect yourself. You want to be as small as possible and almost be invisible when someone's having a go at you. And that's more of the fawn response where you just kind of freeze and you just don't even know what to say and it feels like you've lost your voice. There are things that you want to say in that moment and you think about it afterwards. It's one of those things where someone says something to you, maybe it was a joke or something hurtful, and afterwards you're like, oh, I know exactly what I would have said in that moment, but when I was in it, I didn't have any of those words. My mind went blank. You do want to speak up for yourself and say the thing, but you just can't get it out. You just feel stuck and you've got that mental blank. That's still a reaction. You're not intentionally choosing silence in that moment, so you're just reacting with what feels safer for your nervous system. When we look at it in that context, when you're actually able to respond in that moment, that means that you can use your voice and speak up. Another good indicator is checking in with yourself afterwards. There will be times where you can't catch yourself, and we are humans. It's impossible to catch yourself every single time. You might be able to do it 90% of the time, and honestly, that's remarkable. Even 80, 70, 60%, whatever your threshold is. It's still really cool that you are catching yourself because that is the hardest part, especially at the beginning when you're learning the difference between reacting and responding. Once the situation's unfolded, you've calmed down, your voice has come back, or you're not feeling like you're ready to fight someone with words, have a think about how you're feeling. If you walk away from the situation and you find yourself overthinking it, maybe feeling guilty, bad, or disappointed in yourself in the way that you handled that situation, chances are you probably reacted rather than responded because there's something that doesn't sit right with you. It doesn't feel like you had not necessarily control in that moment, but you didn't say what you wanted to. That's where we overthink and replay things in our head and go, oh, I wish I had said this instead, or I can't believe I said that. We try and rationalize it and justify it, or sometimes we go, you know what, I clearly just needed to have that out with that person and now they know exactly where they stand with me and vice versa. And we can move on from here. There will be times where we will say things that we don't necessarily mean in the heat of the moment. And those are the things that we can't take back. That's where knowing how to respond rather than react can help because it is really hard once the words are out there, once it's already been said. You can't take it back because now the other person knows exactly what you think. And even if it's not necessarily what 90% of you thinks, maybe it's that 10%. Whereas if you responded, they wouldn't. It's not about hiding your true feelings for someone. But I think we've all said things where we have lashed out and we didn't actually mean it, but it's still something hurtful or is something that played on someone's vulnerability, something that they told us in confidence, and we've just dealt that back to them. It either lowers trust or hurts someone unnecessarily. If you're feeling like that after the situation has unfolded and you've had time to process it, that goes back to maybe reacting. In comparison, if you have responded, then you're speaking in a way that feels true and in congruence with who you are. You can leave that situation holding your head high. You can sit with yourself and go, I'm proud of how I dealt with that situation. I feel like I was able to speak my truth and say how I felt, even though it felt like my hands were shaking, I was sweating, I was stressed out. I was still able to respond in a way that felt right for me and in line with who I am and am trying to be. When you're deciding between the two, if we look at the wolf where we have the good and the bad wolf inside us, then if we look at reacting, I would argue that that is more of a bad wolf and responding is more of a good wolf, because we are in control and mindful of how we are interacting within that situation. Have a think about which one you would rather feed, the good or the bad. If you can't catch yourself every single time, that's totally fine. Give yourself grace and compassion. This isn't about perfection. It's just about being aware of how you are in situations and whether maybe the pettier version of yourself is coming out when maybe you don't want it to. I actually believe that there are moments where we absolutely need to react and show our emotions, especially if someone has caught us off guard or we feel incredibly hurt by something or someone's just dealing blow after blow. And it gets to a point where you have responded up until that point and you've gone, okay, this is it. They are going to keep going no matter what. That's where you have to let out your inner lioness or lion and roar, essentially. It doesn't mean reacting in a way that is hurtful for them, but it's just showing, okay, like this is my line, stop now. This is it. I've been very patient, very civil and understanding up until this point, but I have had enough. There are times where being calm, cool and collected in those situations just isn't going to cut it. Reacting in that way and showing your emotions is actually a response. You are choosing that because you've gone, okay, I've been calm up until this point, but something's got to give. And I'm choosing to be more emotive and expressive to let them know exactly how I feel right now. There are times where maybe that pettier version of you does need to come out just to remind people that this person can be like this, but they are actually choosing to be in accordance with their higher self. There's nothing wrong with that. It's about knowing the difference and between choosing yourself rather than choosing to get caught up in the situation. There will be people, especially if you were operating or vibrating at a higher energy, where people will try and drag you down because in their mind, it's a lot easier than them rising up to meet you. In that moment, you get to choose where you want to be. If you want to stay at the level that you're at or stoop to their level, it's up to you. You are an adult. It is absolutely your choice. I would love for you to try this out and start to figure out how it feels in the moment when you react versus respond, and also how you feel afterwards, because chances are when you are choosing to respond, then you can sit with it and feel a lot calmer and accept what happened a lot faster than if you reacted.